Welcome everybody out there. Thank you everybody for joining. We will, as always, give a couple minutes, let some people to join. Hello to you too, Daniel. Hello, Jose. Where are you guys coming from? That's always something fun. As you guys roll in, let us know where you're hailing. Okay. Okay. All right. Mid-Atlantic, got the Midwest, we got the Southwest. Some good representation so far. Daniel, if you're a Cowboys fan, you got a big football game coming up next week. And as you guys are coming in too, give us a thumbs up if we're coming in loud and clear, if you can see my screen share. Just let us know you guys can hear us. Let us know you can see us. That's before we hop in. We want to make sure. Okay, cool. All right, great. Well, yeah, and it's open, so people can continue to roll in, but we can certainly get started here. So I apologize for anyone that saw the promotional material and may have seen me with my mustache. Obviously, not as advertised, but if you are here to learn about how integrations can boost your business, you have come to the right place. That is as advertised. So we are joined here today so we can kind of learn and continue this series. For those, if you haven't made our previous ones, certainly look them up. We're basically here today to kind of learn about the franchising journey, and kind of we've spoken to a lot of great partners that have been at different periods within, starting their franchise. Maybe it's, already rolling, and just kind of giving some insight. So for those that are thinking about franchising, maybe they're part of a franchise and just want to understand things a little better, just kind of, giving some peeks behind the curtain, especially if you want to kind of roll up the sleeves and take that jump and get into the franchise world. So today I am joined by Zach Nolte. So Zach and I have had the pleasure of working together. He is skip me ahead. He is the founder and I'm having a lot of trouble here. Founder and COO of VODA Cleaning and Restoration. So he's going to really talk today about, the insight on those tools that wanted to be integrated into their business management. And then I, of course, am Ben Fish. I'm the franchise channel manager for Workies. So we are a business management solution. And that is how Zach and I came together basically to start working together. So pretty simple today. We want to get you to know a little bit about VODA and Zach specifically. That way you got some more context for that journey and a little more understanding. And then we are talking APIs. So we're talking basically, already identified maybe the CRM or the business management platform you want to use, but maybe it's not covering all of your needs. So how to basically take those other tools and solutions and then find the right solutions that can kind of bring them all together, so you kind of have a consolidated option to run really everything you need from a business management standpoint. Okay. So we'll talk about the APIs that Zach basically looked at. We're going to explore the call center integration specifically. That's something that, we identify as really important. Take a look at kind of how all that plays together. And then at the end, we always leave some time for questions, some Q&A. If you have questions, though, don't wait till the end. If you see something that really engages you and you guys have a question, please throw it out there in the chat. We want to know what you're thinking. We want to know if there's something right in that moment you have a question on. This is, this is pretty casual. This is a conversation for everybody to just kind of learn. So I encourage everyone, get in the chat. Let us know if something kind of strikes you as really pertinent, really interesting. But I do want to start basically introducing everyone to Zach and to VODA. Kind of wanted to learn a little bit about how things started. Zach, what your background is. So if you want to give us kind of a little basic intro, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got to where you're at today.
Yeah, awesome. And thanks, Ben, for having me on. I appreciate you inviting me to talk about something that I find very interesting. Don't know a whole lot about it, but at the same time, like I love using it, and I love knowing that we have all this capability at our fingertips. And so I'll be able to kind of jump into my experience. But so it was about 8 months ago, myself and another partner, his name is Dan, we decided to take our talents and start a new business. And so over the course of the last 10 years, I've been in the franchise world, all within the home services space with a couple brands, one called Kitchen Solvers. And then I thought it was a good idea to then start another brand in about 2017 called Kitchen Wise, which was kind of a fun brand focused on like the efficiency and the kind of the organization of the kitchen area. And both of those models are successful and thriving today. And so I was able to take those talents and say, hey, let's go start something again, really. And so that's when myself and Dan kind of found each other. We've known each other for about 4 or 5 years in the franchise space. And we have a kind of a passion for growing home service business. His specialty is more so focused on finding the right people to buy the franchise, and mine is on how to make them successful operationally. And so we started a platform company called Franchise Playbook. Franchise Playbook will be a kind of a platform of home service brands that we are able to focus on. Our first brand being VODA Cleaning and Restoration. And I don't know a ton about restoration, or I didn't when I first started. So it's our goal. We actually go out and try to find successful local businesses. So anywhere in the country, successful, really good financials, good business structure, some differentiation. And we take those brands, we find a way to partner together, and then we then franchise that brand across the United States. Franchising has become one of those things where like it's all about how all the relationships that you have, how to do it with the right amount of people, and we have that kind of the secret sauce to be able to do so. And so our first brand, like I said earlier, is a cleaning and restoration company called VODA Cleaning and Restoration. And in the last probably 4 months here, we started franchising, and we have 15 units across the United States. Most of them are still in development, and then we have 2 that are open down in the Dallas area that are taking off like crazy right now. So they're having fun. But that's a little bit about my background and kind of what we do and how we do it.
Yeah, man, for sure. And I've had the pleasure of knowing you for quite a bit here. And I know you're a connected guy, when it comes to the franchise world. You've really kind of taken advantage of those extensive networks. Mm-hmm. So for everyone out there, think, kind of maybe just entering that world, how did some collaboration, with other franchisors or, franchise consultants or other connections, how do you see how that helped you really in your journey here today into starting VODA?
Yeah. It's early on in my career. I was kind of like, hey, I'm going to go into franchising. I'm going to change the game. I'm going to figure out how to do this better. I'm going to figure out how to when everybody's going this way, I'm going to go the other way. And I quickly realized that I didn't have to. A lot of people have already tried that, and there is kind of a tried and true path that a lot of people can kind of ride down along. And so I started networking with a lot of the top individuals in franchising. Some people that have been super successful, like 5-Star Painting, a lot of the Neighborly brands, Advanta Clean, a lot of these big companies that are out there that have been super successful and have very happy franchise systems. And, I just kind of started picking the brains of them. And what I quickly realized is that it's not a one-size-fits-all model by any means, but I'm able to kind of pull and play with a lot of different ideas and also meet a lot of great vendors that are able to support our franchises. One thing in home services is that the majority of home services is it's an older, antiquated. It's easy to stand out when you compare yourselves to the smaller local shops. And if we do just the little things the best, we're able to really stand out and be kind of the leader in the industry. We don't have to be the ones to really be the kind of the first ones to come up with new technology. We can take technology and innovate it within the home services space, which is kind of unique and allows us to develop that way.
Yeah, no, I think that's really interesting. And Hardik had said something in the chat, and it just kind of made me think of. I'm sure you've noticed, and you kind of spoke to it as far as like picking these specific lanes that you really wanted to focus on. And that's something I've noticed in franchising a lot the last, half decade to a decade, the specialization. Here, we got a guy right in the chat that, offers some really specific scopes of work. But to your point, if you do those exceptionally well, you do them really good. You don't have to be the first one. You don't have to do everything. But you can find a lane that works really well. I know, like we see that in HVAC. You see a lot more companies that are just heating and air, and then there's companies that just do dryer vent cleaning, and then there's companies that just focus on electrical and plumbing. And back in the day, there was a guy that did all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's I think that's really insightful. It makes sense, especially with your background, all that. Why you guys landed where you did. So was there a point, kind of as you were looking at building this stuff, where you felt maybe your opportunities were limited because you didn't have access to certain capabilities or certain data, or everything was kind of all over the place?
Yeah. When we're looking at certain industries to kind of bring under our portfolio, we do have a number of like kind of credentials that we need them to fit. And we went with the restoration route only because it hit a number of those credentials, and it's something that is, it's recession resistant. It's there's a lot of different verticals for income. But what I didn't really realize when I first really got into restoration is how complex the relationships can be with insurance companies and homeowners, and all these verticals kind of make it pretty complex. And so, we never let those things kind of stop us from really digging in deep. And so when I first started on, I love the technology space. I have no idea like how it works, but I know that I love using it. And so I'm able to kind of find these groups of people and network in certain areas to find technologies that can really advance the space. And so when I was with a company called Kitchen Solvers, we found a technology that was really going to change the game on how kitchens were sold. And so it eliminated the whole front end process of selling, designing, and product order entry. And it was all done through technology. Again, I have no idea how it works, but I know there's some amazing brains that are behind it. And I wanted to be able to latch onto it, give them the user experience, and be able to show them, hey, this is going to work, or this isn't going to work. And then we just kind of continue to advance through that as well. And we did the same thing with restoration. I have a project management software that's going to come in and it's going to change the game for the restoration space on the project manager, and how to work with the adjusters, and how to work with the homeowners and all the people that are involved. And so, it's always one big part of my process is that I may not know anything about the industry that I'm getting into, or maybe I know everything about the industry that I'm getting into, but there's always people that are looking to use technology and leverage technology in order to advance what is the status quo of that industry. And that's really what I'm digging into, and that's how we advance as a platform brand like Playbook.
I think that's really important, something you kind of highlighted on. I think, it can be nerve-wracking to start a business, right? Because at the end of the day, you may know how to do a specific skill, but then, you think, well, I don't know how to keep my books. I don't know how to run a business, right?
Yeah.
And then when you get into franchising, then there's this whole other layer of, running multi-locations and finding the right people to run your franchises, and how to scale and how to grow. And I think it's really important that you recognize something there. You don't know how all this stuff works. You're not a coder. You're not,
No.
someone that set this stuff up, sitting in your living room, tapping away on a keyboard for
Right.
3 weeks. But you recognized that, you could leverage some pieces a little better. So you
Hmm.
mentioned like the insurance complexities being something that was really important within the restoration space. And it sounds like basically, you recognize you needed more to basically leverage and create a stronger hierarchy to basically build the vision of what you guys saw,
For
what
sure.
Voda could be.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's exactly that. It's how do I take the most off of our franchise partners' plates? And I know that like bookkeeping is a big one. Like I'm going to take bookkeeping off. I'm going to tie in that bookkeeping service into all the different pieces of technology through APIs. And I'm going to be able to then leverage that. And so we do the same thing with our bookkeeping service, our call center, our project management tool. All these things are tied right into one central kind of database, and it's all pulling information and technology. And to be honest, it can be very frightening if you know nothing about technology and how it's handled. It almost kind of it stops you from wanting to like pursue it and pursuing that what is out there and all the different technologies that are available. But the cool thing is that there's companies like Workies, which we'll talk about here in a second, that are very, very easy to work with. And I don't have to know anything about the APIs. I don't have to know how the tokens, how they work and how everything's tied in. All I got to do is just put all the right minds in the same building and make sure that the vendors that I'm working with have very kind of open platforms and really good development teams, and they can kind of do all the work for me, to be honest.
So yeah, man, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not, I'm kind of in a similar boat, with my role in the sense of I'm certainly not the most technical. I didn't create this platform, but I just kind of recognize the best way to kind of connect dots to fill needs.
Mm-hmm.
So, you guys had a goal of opening up this franchise. You want to get it up to speed very quickly,
Yeah.
and you had a lot of factors you were looking into. What were some of the solutions you saw in Workies that you were confident the partnership could help create the vision for Voda?
Yeah, it's a great point. I think a lot of franchise systems that are out there, they're looking for something very specific, and it's a franchisor focused system, and so meaning that there are a lot of reports, and we can dig into the back end numbers. We can see what's happening at the local level, and we're able to then roll all that up into the royalty reporting, and then be able to pull stuff like that. And also kind of manage all the franchise partners all in one central database. And so what I decided to do differently is that I went forward and I said, I'm going to look just outside of the core franchise groups of vendors. I want to find a system that is very franchisee focused, meaning that the user interface is the most important piece. What I know about after 10 years of working with home service franchise partners is that they don't really care about all the bells and whistles. They just want to make sure that when they open up that app in the computer or on their phone, that it's easy to find where they're going and they can get to their customers. They can open up the invoices, send invoices, estimate, whatever it is, and also collect payment. And so I wanted to make sure that the user interface was absolutely 100% perfect first. And so that was the first thing that I saw when I walked into Workies and working with Ben, is that this was the first system I've seen in a long. I've worked with probably 5 or 6 different CRMs. It was the first system I walked into, and I opened it up, and I knew exactly what to do. I didn't need any training. I knew where it all was. It was very seamless. The user experience was probably the best I've seen in a long time. And then the question started coming is how easy is your APIs to work with? I have a lot of different connections. I think, maybe Ben didn't realize how many there actually was at the time, but it was something that they were easily able to add. And so those were all different things, all the questioning that I went through. And there's also a willingness to work with us as we continue to grow. So between those 3 things, those are the 3 check boxes I really needed to make sure that were in place before we jumped into this.
No, that's great to hear, man. And I know, and obviously, we work together on starting this partnership, and those are often the things we do try to convey, because you're absolutely right. At the end of the day, the franchisees need to operate. And if they don't know how to operate the actual CRM system, it causes a lot of frustration, causes a lot of headaches.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
actually did put a poll out because I was curious to see of everyone that's here today, who's using a CRM currently, who's at the point in their business where they've invested in a solution. But I'm going to put another one out there in a second because I'm interested to kind of see like where the headaches are with their CRM. So before I put that out, I want to get into the actual APIs that you're using. I thought it'd be great. We do have an open API environment within Workies, but give us a little insight into, the tools you identified that you wanted to have access to and you needed visibility to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a quick story about that too. Is that when I was with Kitchen Solvers, I had a goal. It was probably like 2000, I think 16 or 17. I was like, I need to have a call center. I want a call center in the system. I want to make sure that this call center works and that none of our franchise partners have to worry about answering the phone. You're spending all this money on marketing, and then all these leads just go to a voicemail. It's like you need to call these leads back or get a hold of them within 4 or 5 seconds, or pick up the call every single time. And so a call center for any home service business is so important. And so, but in order to get that call center, I had to then do a CRM switch over. This was a 3-year project to move over about 50 locations over to a new CRM to get the call center to work on all the APIs. And so through that system, I found out a lot about what I wanted in a CRM, but also I nailed down the call center services that we wanted to use as well. And so we used a call center called ProNexus. It was a company that I've used for 3 or 4 years. Absolutely love them. A great leadership team, really good callers. They're very professional on the phone, and the metrics speak for themselves. And so so the call center was a big, kind of the first conversation that Ben and I had around making sure that the APIs worked. And not only from just the call center piece of it, but the call center, we wanted the call center to be able to pick up the phone and also be able to quote and also book appointments for some of our services right into the CRM. So in most CRMs, it's not possible. And I think Workies took it upon themselves to make it possible and make sure that we are able to make that work. And ProNexus and Workies worked fantastic together. They have a great working relationship. And again, I don't even know what API stands for. And I was able to kind of coordinate what all this stuff, how this all works. And I was able to kind of say, this is the experience that I need. And we were able to work it out. And it was probably a 3 or 4 week project, and it just seemed like it was completely seamless on my end, for at least my end.
Yeah, and I would agree. Overseeing that project, I was so thrilled, and we've worked with ProNexus many times. But obviously, every time you want to see it get across the finish line, and get across smoothly, I'm often like, I remember in AP history class in high school, like nerding out here. Learning, my teacher's opinion was oftentimes the best presidents, they may not be the smartest guy, but they knew how to surround themselves with the smartest people, the best people, in their cabinets. And so I just am cracking up, keep referencing, you don't know how this stuff works, and that's okay. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation with people out there. You don't need to know what an API is and how it works. You don't need to be a coder to know that, if you have some key business needs, there are ways to get what you need. So I think that's awesome that, you recognize the ability within Workies to kind of, have all of those points connect. So it sounds like the call center was kind of the first essential piece you recognized. What was something else? Like what's another API you have set up that, you knew you wanted to bring in?
Yeah, I think we have about 4 or 5. None of those which kind of speak to you, but they all kind of build themselves into Workies. The other big one was we needed a central dashboard for our franchise partners to review KPIs and understand numbers and see and basically be able to make strategic decisions from one dashboard. And there's a lot of companies out there that have those tools available, but they are very expensive. You're investing a lot of money, and then there's also all the downsides to them, and they also have limitations as well. So we couldn't find anything that was going to fit our needs. So we actually ended up building our own. And so we're heavily invested into the scoreboard, is what we call it. We're very heavy on the franchise playbook is a bunch of sports analogies. So scoreboard is our data metrics side of the business. And so we wanted to make sure that the developer that we have on that they could tie in. We also have a project management tool. Workies has a great project management tool. We just needed something just a little bit different on the restoration side of things. And so we integrated that right into Workies. QuickBooks is an obvious one that we were able to integrate. And so those were kind of the core pieces of what we needed kind of working around Workies to make sure that the business was being taken care of well.
Yeah, no, that's great. The scoreboard stuff, business intelligence has just become so much more important. It's something that, I mean, you see it all the time, whether you're watching sports, just data and analytics in general, it's so important in driving decisions. So I can certainly understand why you wanted to take, the data that's coming in on these jobs and have it visible. Like, what's a great example of, data that you're pulling from, say, scoreboard, or even data from ProNexus or whatever you need to maybe make a decision on a process or a setup for the business?
Yeah, I mean, we could dig all the way down to, on the call center side of things, we know how many seconds it takes for us to call back a lead form submission, the average phone call length. We also have all the data on, number of attempts and also all the recordings on that call center. On our scoreboard side of things, we're able to look at, how long does it take to get an insurance paid job? How long does it take to collect that cash? Our average life cycles of those jobs, a lot of cash flow data analysis, how long we're spending on floor cleaning jobs, all this data that we're putting in there. And also due to the part that we have the ability to kind of, track through the Workies apps on where we're at on that side of things, collect payments, and all that's being done there. So those are all data point contacts. And so what seems, early on in your business venture, it may seem a little bit more like overkill on the amount of data that we are collecting. But when you're able to kind of step back as an owner and really start paying attention to the numbers, that's when you can work at, maybe 1 year you don't grow by, 5-6%. Maybe you learn how to save 5 or 6% on your current profit and loss. And those are all direct things that we can pull and start to really understand by really understanding the numbers. A very common saying that I can't take credit for, but know your numbers is something that you hear in franchising, something you definitely hear within VODA through as you're growing through the system. Here's a quick screenshot of just some of the dashboard of scoreboard that we are currently using. And so you're able to kind of see a lot of these different numbers as we come in. It seems like a lot of data. It is a lot of data. We're not trying to overwhelm by any means with the amount of data. And at some point, a lot of this will start to make sense. But this is all being pulled from not only just Workies, but we're also pulling this from all of our other vendors as well. QuickBooks and our call center, everything's kind of tied into these units. If you were to map it out, it looks like a massive web, a massive confusing web of API connections.
But they all work together. I mean, I kind of want to take it back to the call center stuff, because that's oftentimes that's beginning of your life cycle. Of course, you're doing marketing, to get those calls. But if we're looking at the job cycle or life cycle, really a lot of times it's going to start with someone kind of booking that appointment. So, take us through a little bit of specifics on the actual call center. Maybe how the workflow begins and kind of what that looks like from the call center side. Yeah.
So our marketing team, we actually do about 90% of the actual hard work of marketing. So the lead generation side of things, pay-per-click, Facebook ads, Google Guaranteed, all that type of stuff. We're building all those campaigns for our franchise partners. And then we're taking all that information and we're automatically then parsing that right into ProNexus. So the CRM and our franchisees don't even really know that they're getting leads. They're just going straight to ProNexus. Then it's all zip code based. So all the zip codes that are being listed on these, either the calls that are coming in and or any of the web form submissions from Thumbtack, Angie's, our Google, whatever it is, like all that's going into ProNexus, they're sorting through that data. Then they're calling the lead. They call within about, if it is a web form submission, within a couple minutes. If it's a direct call, they're actually picking up the phone call within about 4 or 5 seconds. And you get a real live person from the United States. We also have Spanish-speaking people as well that are able to get on that call. And then depending on what they're calling on, there's a couple of different workflows. Now, specifically to us, because we have the cleaning side of it, which is more or less just floor cleaning, upholstery, tile and grout, and we have restoration, we're actually able to take the cleaning side of the business and we're able to give ProNexus a very basic kind of a menu of items and also the prices based off of number of items or square footage. The call center is now trained on how to then give a soft quote over the phone. And if they do agree to that quote, or maybe it's too large of a project to quote on the phone or whatever, they're able to take that person and then go back to Workies and open up the calendars on a per technician basis and schedule appointments directly in their calendar. This is, that piece of it alone saves so much back and forth, and it's all automated. And as long as the franchise partners, technicians, have their calendars up to date with personal stuff like vacations and time off or when they're not available, they're able to book these appointments right into their calendar. So coming in the next day at work, you're able to see that, hey, 3 or 4 days from now, I have a new appointment. It popped up in my schedule. I can pull up all the notes. I can pull up, what they talked about. I can listen to the recording from the ProNexus. I'm able to now, and also maybe you make a follow-up call to see if, hey, any more details. This is all things that we're able to do through the integration between Workies and ProNexus. The other side of it, the restoration side, we don't want them booking appointments. That's more of an emergency type service. So they're collecting information and then they're forwarding it to the general manager or the next point of contact on staff. But they're still shooting all that information that they've collected directly into Workies so that the general manager has that information to work off of in Workies. So a lot of moving parts and a lot of testing. We'll constantly be making edits to that as well, but the API is working very seamless at this moment.
It is fantastic. I've seen it in person, and so we just talked about a lot of different information that's being gathered in this process. But if it, to kind of paint the picture, if you could imagine, basically what Zach's saying, the reps have, in front of them, their ProNexus system that has the questions to ask, the things needed to book the appointment, everything pertinent. They have scripts built in. Yep. It just pushes step by step. And then when that last step is creating that appointment, it's created and it pushes right over into Workies and it's on the schedule. So it's amazing how the two talk together. And Daniel, you had a good question. And so in this instance, it sounds similar to kind of how Zach's setup is. And because it's working so seamlessly, we're exploring how to basically have that data even talk to each other even more so and create more integration together. The collaborative aspect of that partnership's been fantastic. That's why we really enjoy working with ProNexus. I think most out there can see how a call center can especially help an individual location or franchisee. Zach, how did you envision a call center? Can you explain how it helps the franchise as a whole?
Yeah. First of all, a brand consistency is first and foremost for us, and making sure that calls are being handled the same way. The same, like if you can picture like a McDonald's or Subway's a bad choice right now, but like anytime you walk into those restaurants, like you're expecting the same hamburger, same cheeseburger, same order, same menu. Within home services, sometimes it gets a little lost. It's not as finite, and there's not as it's not as like a as systematized as it can be, and every home's a little bit different. But the things that we can control are how we generate leads, how the leads are handled on the front end, and then how they're booked and scheduled into the CRM. And so if we could take all that front end work off of the plates of the franchise partners, let's find a way to make it very systematic. We also we see ourselves as we have a lot of lead generation experience and a lot of experts on our team. Our CMO is nationally recognized for his marketing efforts and lead generation, and our CEO also is very recognized for his lead generation capabilities as well. And so but the first thing that we always know is that the lead is only as good as how you're handling it. And so you can get all the leads in the world, and if you're not calling them back because you're too busy, or you call them back in 2 or 3 days when you got an open time, or you get a call and you're in your truck driving down the road and you're kind of distracted, that's not going to convert leads. It's not going to happen. And so we place so much emphasis on making sure that every single lead that we get is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to make another sale. And the best opportunity for us to convert that is through a call center, making sure that someone is on the other line, picking the phone up, and making sure that we're getting those jobs scheduled as quickly as possible. So that's where we place a ton of emphasis on, and that's where for us as a franchise system, that's where we can bring a lot of value, and also in lowering those costs to end user as well.
Yeah, for sure. Was there anything particular that stood out to you about ProNexus to where you kind of knew they were going to fit those needs?
They do have a track record of working with home services brands. Originally, it was built for a company called 5 Star Painting, and then a lot of neighborly brands are now using the call center for certain brands as well. So it was a natural go-to for a lot of people because it was home services and franchising. But I definitely found out that the relationship that I was able to establish with the leadership team over at ProNexus, and making sure that they really understood who we are, our core values as a company, but also kind of what our expectations are with it. All those little things just continue to enhance the system. Now, I can't say that like you're going to go and have the same maybe you will, maybe you won't, I don't know, but you may not have the same experience, but it is about the relationships we establish with ProNexus and how we build out those APIs and the scripts, that we're going to get a better result. And so it's not just the vendor, it's how you work those with those relationships as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I think you see that in a lot of industries. Companies, they find themselves within niches. They are built in a certain way, but then they find that they're really correlate to a specific vertical, a specific industry, whatever it happens to be. And I can agree with you. ProNexus has done a really great job of understanding what it takes for service businesses to basically, like you said, kind of maximize the number of conversions of leads. Yeah. That's something that, we focus on at Workies. I mean, speed to lead is exceptionally important within the service industry. And so, whether it's our automations, whether it's, follow-up, there's so many pieces that are built within the system. And the data is part of that. Once you operate in business, you can leverage the data to figure out where you can improve in those areas. That's another great example of basically how those pieces can work together. So I know we're running up on time here, and I do always like to basically leave some time at the end for Q&A. And I know we kind of took a look at the actual system itself, the dashboard before. So can you tell us? We talked how they interact, how that seamless aspect is built through the API. What do you think is like the best usage of the data you've anticipated thus far, or maybe something you didn't anticipate that you were like, oh, once you saw it, you were like, oh, well, now we can do this better, like how it connected to a process or anything specific?
I think it's having the capability to continue to add, more vendors, more support into Workies. I think where a lot of it comes back to us is in our scoreboard data. We're able to just capture so much more data and be able to then see and make strategic adjustments across all different platforms. The other side of it too is just like, you have your Facebook, you have your Google Analytics, you have all these different platforms. You have great reports in Workies as well. Whatever systems you're using, you have individual reports like all over the place. Now, since we're able to now kind of cater or take all those different reports and funnel them into one piece of data called scoreboard, we have the capability. We're able to now look at one dashboard and make the decisions necessary. And a lot of that data comes from Workies and what we're doing there. So, I'm a big fan of data that doesn't lie, and that we make decisions based off of data and not feelings. And so sometimes that data can drive us to certain emotional decisions, but at the same time, we're going to look at the facts first. So it's a lot of it's to be come as we continue to grow. We're going to find out more things, and I couldn't ask for a better partner in Workies and who else we're working with to make sure that every step of the way we're continuing to advance, continue to grow, and making sure that we have the right pieces of technology in place for the franchise partners.
Yeah, for sure. Isn't that we all grew up, in so many iterations hearing, to trust your gut.
Yeah, right.
And I love the data and sports analogies because that's such a huge foundation of like coaching decisions, of personnel decisions is this gut. And, I think there's always going to be an element within human nature, of a little what you're feeling at the moment. But man, has data become such an important tool to make better decisions. And I think you've seen in the sports world, in the business world, everywhere, people kind of recognize, what, I trust the data a little bit more than I ever would have thought, because the more robust the tools become to collect it, you can see the difference. You can see how it plays out and how it can improve your business. And that's what we're all looking to do at the end of the day. So
it's a powerful decision when your gut and the data are all saying the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. All you need to do is find the right people to set it up. You don't have to know how to set it up. You just find those people. That's the key.
Yeah.
So,
I could not agree more with that statement for sure.
That's well, thanks, Zach. I really appreciate it, man. I want to open it up. Anyone that has a question for Zach, whether it's maybe you're looking at some tools yourself to kind of enhance your business. Maybe just something that he said that you want to elaborate on. Let's leave the last 3 minutes here or plus. We can go a little over for questions to help guide you guys.
Can you explain more about the call center integration? From the technical side of things, I'm sure Ben can probably speak a little bit better to that. But the call center integration for us is that we spent a lot of time really making sure that there's key features, making sure that the call center was able to, as soon as they convert a lead, and also if all the unconverted leads as well, that all that data gets pushed into Workies. So whether they're a lead that is scheduled to an appointment, that appointment gets pushed to Workies. Also, that lead information, all the information that they're getting from the call center, all that is then integrated in there. So, if you wanted to picture it better, it's almost like you're not seeing any like lead action happening until the call center's already either went through their 7 or 8 call attempts and they didn't convert it. Then you see that it's a non-converted lead. And then also, too, if it is a converted lead, it's showing up as an appointment into Workies. And from that point, you're able to now start working that job just like you would anywhere else. But you didn't have to worry about the whole front end. Everything is already built right into Workies. All the data is in there on that lead, phone number, address, where the lead came from. All that information is built right into that. And ProNexus and Workies are definitely working hand in hand on that.
Yeah, their specific flow. So basically, if a new customer comes in, they literally just fill in the customer info. They can even add notes. They save all that information, and it's going to save as a ProNexus customer within ProNexus's info. But then it just posts requests to basically create that lead through the API. Once they gather everything that they need, it just pushes right over to Workies, and in Workies, then it's reflecting as a lead. So now all of a sudden it's on the text schedule. Yeah. So yeah, it's really just, taking that info, inputting it in the first system, and it just pushes right over to the Workey system. And we've worked together with ProNexus so that they, questions that might be specific to ask that will then populate into specific fields that are generated to customize the workflow on the Workey's end. We can make sure what's required, what's necessary to gather. So when he talks about it being seamless, it's, both Workey's and ProNexus really talk to make sure, okay, when the rep talks and collects the info in ProNexus, we're going to have everything we need on the Workey's side to get this on the schedule and go out and perform a job. And it works that way to a T. It's fantastic.
Yeah, Hardik had a good question as well. Is the different platform leads, will they come from ProNexus or will they still Workey's only? One thing I do love about ProNexus, they have been around for a while. So there was actually a little bit of risk when I decided to work with Workey's. The integration hadn't been built out, and ProNexus does work with a handful of other CRMs, and also too they already have APIs built out for all these other lead generation services as well. So like Thumbtack, Angie's, Home Advisor, they already have all the APIs built out there, so that if you do have a Thumbtack account, you're able to then push that data, push those leads directly to to ProNexus, and then ProNexus works that lead and then pushes that data into Workey's as well. So at that point, if you do have a call center, the only thing that I would say that doesn't go to ProNexus right away is like the numbers on the business cards. If I am an owner and I pass that business card to someone, I'm like, here, just call the main office number. And it kind of leads into the next question as well. Ben's and Workey's have a great calling feature. We actually kind of isolated that calling feature to a specific, and I'm not sure how much detail I should go into this side of things, but we actually, all the call center numbers for us are specific to ProNexus. And then once they become a lead or a job, or we're working with them on a customer database, then we switch them over to our Workey's numbers and use the calling features on that side of things. So that is a little bit different on how we handle that side.
And I think it's a great microcosm. There's so much software out there, and you want to consolidate basically as best you can. And Daniel, this kind of ties into your question. And what we try to do is create an environment that's flexible enough to, we provide a heck of a lot within our system, way more than other FSMs to have everything live in there. But there's still things that other softwares do better than us. And, rather than shut a business off from having access to that, we wanted to build an environment to where, we could bring that in. So you could still seamlessly utilize these companies that do what they do best, but still have a consolidated, easily visible, way to navigate everything, to capture the data, to make the decisions, to book the jobs, to kind of do everything you need to do. And I think that's really, Zach, what you recognized. You needed a multitude of tools to make VODA as successful as it could be. And you have a system now that allows all those tools to basically be connected and allow you guys to operate the way you need. So I know it's been great to kind of watch it through the process and now watching it flourish. So it's been awesome. And yes, absolutely, Daniel, if you guys have any questions and you want to reach out for more information, we are going to share the recording of this webinar with all you guys, as well as everyone that was registered for it. We'll be blasting it on the socials. And like I said, if this is the process that you're in, please check out the other ones that we've had in this series. It's been a great peek at, how to, take a successful business and really make that decision and jump into, the idea of franchising it, which, as Zach has shared, you identify the right things, it can lift off pretty quickly. And, I really appreciate you, Zach, for sharing some great tips with us today.
Yeah. No, this is franchising is a relationship business. We're all kind of pushing towards this to have the success of our franchise partners is the ultimate goal. That's our customer, and being able to surround ourselves with vendors like yourself is a great honor. So thank you for all your support.
Absolutely. Well, everyone, take care. Thank you for joining us. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you on the next one.
Sounds good. Thanks all.